Hey everybody, The Great Escape here, and welcome to another episode on our Minecraft tutorial world. Today we're not going to be building anything. We're going to be answering a question that I've gotten about 100 times, which is how on earth do you move around villagers and work with them? So today we're going to be working not with iron golems or anything else. We're going to be working with the pesky little villager who can often have a mind of their own and make moving them around the world or transporting them from one place to another very, very difficult. And so today we're going to be exploring 3 different ways. He just ran off into a cliff. 3 different ways in which you can move villagers around in your world. So let me go ahead and get the materials that I'm going to need, and let's get right on to our very first tutorial. Alright, so the first and easiest way to move villagers around in your world is going to be with a boat. Boats make moving things around very, very, very simple. It's just a matter of getting the boat, putting it down in front of whatever you're trying to move, and then hopping in the boat with yourself and taking off with them. So let's go ahead and find our villager here, pop the boat down, boom, he jumps right into it. And then you hop into the boat with the villager, and you can transport them. Now you have to be careful with the path blocks. The boat, once it's in a path block, it can't climb out of the path block, I guess because it's slightly too tall. So once you're in there, you have to be careful, but you will be able to go off and go to the nearest body of water very slowly, because moving in with a villager on land is very slow. But once you get into the water, the speed's going to pick up a lot, and you're going to be able to take them anywhere in the world you want to go, as long as you have water streams available. Now, I've heard some people say that using a boat, you can transport them up mountains and things by using pistons, and this does work on the Java edition. I think it may also work on the Bedrock edition, but unfortunately, for some weird reason on the PlayStation edition, when you use a piston to power something, and so you could raise up the level of the boat, it actually... Okay, well, thanks for hopping right in there for the description here. As you can see, the piston actually goes through the boat, and the boat doesn't rise up. I've seen this method of movement on Java, but it just doesn't work on the PS4. Now, a second and very reliable way of moving villagers is to use rails. Rails offer you a lot of control over where villagers go. It also is the quickest way to move them across land, because moving on a boat is very, very slow on land. So just you build up a rail network like this, and you get your villagers on there, and you can take them anywhere you want to go, and take them off into the distance, and deposit them in a villager breeder farm or into your iron farm or wherever you want to go. And putting a villager in a minecart is just as easy as putting them into a boat. All you have to do is have the villager and have the boat or have the minecart near them, and and you can push them right in. Now, sometimes the villagers will take off on their own, so you have to be very, very careful. That's why it's important to use powered rails so that you keep them going the direction you want. But, well, there you go. So at the end of your rail, wherever you want them to stop, what the trick here is to make sure that you don't have rails at the end. So once they kind of slide off the end of the rails, they're just stuck there. If a villager is sitting in a minecart on land without any rails around, it's not going to move. It's just going to stay exactly where you want them to be. So at the very, very end of your minecart rail or track, you can do that. And again, just pop your villager in by pushing them, or if you've got it, you can have a villager in front of the minecart, and when the minecart goes through him, he'll jump in it as well. And those two are going to take off, and they'll be where you want them to be. All the way down here, and as you can see, they stopped because there's no rail, or there's no rails there for them to travel on, and so you got them there. Now, it's very, very, very important, however, that you keep all walls around your villagers too high, because they can climb over those walls. They can take off and go wherever you want them to be, so make sure all those walls are too high. You can do this. Now, this is not the location where you would want to necessarily break out your villagers, because there's an issue with the number of, like, one block's not necessarily going to be enough. So you want to do something like this, where you have multiple spaces for the villager to break out. And then once they come in, you want to break any of the rails in front, close off their method of escape, and only then break them out of their rail cars, so that they can't run back to wherever they were, or run off your path or do whatever. And then if this is built right over the top of your farm area, all you have to do is kind of break them off and push them off into a chute. Don't make this the farm. Build this kind of platform above the farm, and then you can drop your villagers down into the farm. And just be careful with doing things like working with water or anything like that, because villagers are notorious for hopping right out of something once you think you've got them trapped, because that water raised their level up and they can get over that too high wall. But just be very, very careful as you're working with them. But you've got your villagers here, and you can drop them down into your farm using rails. Now, another system that you can use, and that one that is incredibly useful, and I think is my favorite way of moving them, not necessarily over long distances, but over a short distance, is to use water streams. And so if you've got a bunch of villagers that you're trying to move, this is a great way to move 10 or 15 villagers very, very quickly. You'll want to build a tunnel that's between 2 and 3 blocks tall. 3 blocks will allow you to light it with torches, but you only really need to have 2 blocks tall. So this one here I'm going to build is going to be a 2-block tunnel. And this tunnel needs to go from wherever the villagers are currently being kept all the way to where you want them to be. And it can have curves, it can have loops, it can do whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and build that tunnel out. And here's, you can see I'm building in a curve so that the villagers will come around this curve to get to where we want them to be. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this out. Now, if you don't build it 3 high, you might want to put some holes in the roof at different levels so that you get some light coming in, so you're not getting too much, anything spawning in this area. And then what you want to do is you place a sign down, and on top of that sign, put some water, and that's going to run out. Then wherever the water ends, put a sign on the wall at the ending, right there, and then one above where the water ended, like that. And then in that little kind of cusp right there, place another thing of water. And you're just going to repeat that as far as you need to, going all the way down to the end. When you get to a curve, make sure that the water goes around the curve. Do not have it end at the curve. So you might need to cut this up a little bit to make that happen. And as you can see, it's just going to keep going all the way around. And then once you get to the space where you can go ahead and open that up, put some signs there to prevent the water from spewing out. And now all you have to do is push your villagers into this area. And you can use, you can carefully push them. You can use water like this to push them in. I should put the water on the other side, but this will eventually get them to go down into your water stream. And once they're in there, they're not coming back. So they're going to be pushed that way. And there you go. He takes off. And let's see where he's at. There he is. So there's our first villager coming through, and the other 4 are coming in as well. So it's not a super fast system, but it is very reliable. And now you can always go through the water stream with them and kind of push them along from behind, and that'll just ensure that they get there and as fast as you want. But notice it moved 4 villagers very, very quickly. Didn't require mine carts or anything like that. So this is a very effective system. Now you can also use this to lift villagers up distances, and so all we're going to do here is build kind of a water chute going up, just like you would for a regular mob farm or any other kind of farm. Just build that chute going all the way up to the top. It only needs to be one size like this. And then there's a couple different methods that you could potentially use to lift them up. We're going to look at both different methods. But then once you get to the top, you can continue your tunnel out. It can go out to where you drop them down into your farm. It can, go out further. This might be you're getting them up over a mountain or whatever. This is completely up to you, but you can build like a little waterway for them to go up. And then the next thing we need to do is grab some soul sand. And so we're going to drop that soul sand down at the very bottom here, right there. Well, let me click. All right. And then that's where our villagers are coming out. And then up at the top, well, before we do that, put some signs down here so the water doesn't rush out. And put some, that's not complete. Put some water signs there. And then up at the very, very top, we're going to drop in our water bucket, but one high up like this, right there, so it kind of pushes out. So anything that comes up is going to be pushed out, and they're not just going to be floating up at the top there. Go ahead and cap that off so that they can't fly out. And then we get our bubbles, so our water column is complete. And now it's just a matter of getting them in. Now, I took the roof off so we could see that these 4 were here. We probably need to make sure that roof is back on, and if this doesn't work, I'll do that. But, well, well, they all ran in of their own free will. You might have had to put the roof back on and push them in on their own, but there they go. Now, the second method that you could potentially use, because soul sand makes it a little difficult because it does this. Like once something gets up to the top, it just bumps up and down. You can't go down in that chute. The easiest method, and if you don't have soul sand, is to, let's go ahead and take this out. Down here at the bottom, now that we don't have any water coming down with the soul sand, instead all you'll need is some signs and water buckets. And let's go ahead and get rid of this. And right here, we're going to repeat that same thing that we've done. We'll put a sign there and a sign there, and then put a water bucket there, and that's going to push them all the way to the end. And then right above that, right here, we're going to put a sign, and then go up above that about 3 blocks and put another bucket of water. You can go up 4 blocks, 5 blocks. I think 6 or 7 is also fine, as long as they can breathe every few blocks. And then up on top of each one of those, you're going to put a sign. And then when you get up to the top, villagers are in the way. This is what villagers do. They're always in the way. Up at the top, you're going to repeat that same thing. You're going to put a sign there and have it going out like that. Put a sign there, and then water stream, and that's going to push them all the way through. All right, so if we pop a few villagers into our thing here. Now, as I said, I should have put the roof back on this. As you can see, he's bobbing up, so you do need to make sure you be really careful because he just popped out. You want to make sure that you've got your roof on these things so that they can't fly out of your farm. The number one struggle with villagers is that they will they will come in and out of farms as much as they can. So you might need to make this 3 high going into the water chute with another sign, and that's perfectly okay. But just make sure that you got your walls high enough that your villagers aren't flying out. But there he goes. He's gonna fly up on his own because villagers swim upwards. And here he is up at the top. And that'll work for any number of villagers that you have coming through your system. It's a perfectly easy way to do it. It just requires a lot of building up. So obviously rails, probably the least amount of building. This is a little bit more, but a little more reliable, and you can move more. But villagers are tough to work with, so be patient and use your time. But that's all I've got time for today. I hope that you found this little tutorial useful. If there's any other questions, why is he all the way out here? If you have any questions, please put them in the comments. I love responding to as many comments as I can, and sometimes I don't always see them, but I try to my best to respond to as many comments as I possibly can. But if you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, please drop a like down at the bottom. It really does help the channel. And then also subscribe if you want to see more videos like this one. But this has been The Great Escape today, and as always, I will see you next time.